Somebody was asking about quotations. Yes, quotations are allowed. Of course, you can quote. I mean, there is how many quotations can you have in a paragraph? That's a separate question. But to answer the question whether or not to quote, yes, you can quote exact words. You know, if there is a sentence that you think will add value to what you are saying, you should quote. Or if there are unique phrases that you have copied from a source, of course, that should be cited, and of course, reference provided. Reprinted, this is important. So reprinted diagrams, illustrations, charts, pictures, or other visual materials. In other words, anything that you pick up from the internet or from other sources must be cited. So remember, Journal of NELTA, talking about Journal of NELTA, it's 80% rejection rate. And a lot of rejections, or many rejections, are because they are not cited, these materials are not cited well or correctly, or not cited at all. So remember, there are ways of, as Abhishek pointed out, there are softwares now, there are apps. And like any other journal, we use those to find out, to locate, copy the materials and so on. So, okay. Next is when you reuse or repost of any digital media. So for example, even if you pick it up from, pick some ideas from social media, so Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, images, audio, video, whatever, that they should be cited. So basically anything, any information, any idea that does not belong to you, that does not come from your own findings. Okay, quickly, probably I shouldn't explain too much. Works that do not need documentation. So citing your own lived experiences, your own personal experiences, your own observations, insights, your own thoughts, your own conclusions. That includes your own findings as well. When you are writing up your own results obtained through lab or field experiments, field work, data collections, data analysis, and so on. When you use your own artwork, so for example, if you create your own table of tables of figures, you don't need to cite those. So artwork, digital photographs, video, audio, and so on. When you are using common knowledge, things like folklore, common sense, observations, myths, urban legends, historical events, okay, but not historical documents. So you don't need to cite when you are using generally accepted facts. Like, that's a very simple example. Pollution is bad for the environment. Everybody knows that. English is a foreign language in Nepal. That's an established fact, right? You don't need to cite for that. Okay, the next one is, so the facts will include like writing is a process. Again, that's a fact. You don't need to cite that. So, okay. Moving on, so now I move on to this one, what to cite. So quotations, yeah, word for word, copy of the original text, yes, you can cite that, but then use quotation marks around short quotes. And remember, there is a way of doing it. So if it's more than 3 lines, that should be separated from the main text and should be indented. Paraphrase, that's what Avishar was also talking about. You paraphrase, the language becomes your language, but the idea remains somebody else's, right? Say, yeah, that should be cited. Restating the original material in your own words, this should be cited. Do not use quotation marks. You don't have to say it, but you need to cite the source. Again, graphs, I'm repeating the same thing again. Graphs, images, ideas from other sources. Yes, you need to cite the source. Also acknowledge music or even computer code created by others. Common knowledge, don't need to cite, and your own findings, generalizations, don't need to cite. Okay, we talked about this. We said that there is nothing wrong with this. I'm talking about how to cite now. I'm rushing a bit so that we are too late. So there is nothing wrong with this citation. It's simply a different style, not accepted by Journal of NELTA. So there are many, many journals, even international journals, of course, which accept this, only this. So it's just a matter of a style being prescribed, subscribed by the journal. Now, the one that is accepted here by the Journal of NELTA is it. And that's the APA 6th. Now, there was a question about APA 7th. Yes, there are some differences between APA 6th and 7th. We talked about that. And what we said that, yes, as we will try to make APA 6th manual available, try to make it available on Journal of NELTA website. If it is available, then we will subscribe that as a required style. But right now it is APA 6th. It's APA 6th, that's the required style. And this is how we cite following the style. So remember, many, as I mentioned, many of you do cite the sources, but they are not done correctly. Not correctly for many reasons. One, not done according to the recommended style. Second, not followed the style correctly. So here, I will just point out a few things so that when you submit your articles to Journal of NELTA, you don't want to be rejected just on the basis of this one, because you have done the hard part. Now, you have done the citation. Now do it correctly so that you don't get rejected. So here, author's surname, and as you can see, the rules is initials are separated. And in the chat box, someone was talking about punctuation marks and so on. That's quite important, use of punctuation marks. And I will give you examples a little bit later, just after this one. So it says author's surname, and remember there's a comma here, and then initials, and then initials are separated by stops or period. So if J is the first name and A is the middle name, then J point, A point should be, there should be a period after each initials, but the surname is separated with a comma. If you have, there's another important point here. If you have multiple authors, so they must be separated by this one when you are listing it or when you are putting in the parentheses, if it's not part of the text. So if you write this in full word A and D, then that becomes unacceptable. So if you have multiple authors, that should be separated using this symbol, which is known as ampersand. Okay, sometimes you have multiple authors with the same surname. Then, when you have the initial, surname will be the surname, but once you have the initial, the full name is given for at least one of them. Date, again, um, usually it's a year of publication, but sometimes you will have no date available. In that case, N.D is written in the bracket instead of year. Title of the source and the format of this will be different for different types of materials. For example, whether it is a book or a journal article, and so on. So you'll see that in the example. Location, say location of the publisher. Say there is two different ways of doing it. If there is a city like Sydney, Melbourne, New York, sometimes the state is also provided, or the name of the country is also provided. But if the place is well known, so for example, London, New York, Oxford, then you don't need to put the country's name. But there is no harm if you put the country over there. If you access the materials online, then your link should be also provided. Okay, that's the one of the examples. As you can see, so I put here two types of in-text citations, two types. So that's author prominent, if you are familiar with that term. Author prominent referencing, it starts with the author and the date. So if you have two authors here, that and should be last name and the last name. That and should be in word, A and D. But here, as you can see, if it is in the bracket, only this is allowed, the symbol. So yeah, that's the author prominent citation. And if there is a quotation or if there is statistics mentioned and you want to mention page number, P, a small p, not capital P, point and a space, of course, and the page number. Now, if you paraphrase and cite, page number is optional. When I say optional, some people like to give page number, some people don't, but it's not required. But if it's a quotation, page number is required. So that's author prominent, information prominent, when information is put first and the author is, or the source is cited in the bracket, and that's the format. As you can see, there is a comma separating authors, and the date, comma, and P, period, and remember the spacing. So there is just, the general rule is there is a space after every punctuation mark. So comma, space, point, space, etc. Okay, listing of references must be in alphabetical order, hanging indent, single spaced, a space between entries. And that's an example. There's a few things I would like to point out here. So as you can see, when you are making a list, remember there are two authors and only this is how you join it using this symbol. And look at the capitalization. Only this letter is capitalized. All others are, except the words are names, all others are small. So after colon, capital, in the beginning, capital, all others small, except names. The name of the journal is italicized, and you can see here we don't use PP, no page numbers. And URL link if you access it through the internet. Okay, probably the same here. That's the journal article, single. Oops, the book, as you can see, journal titles are italicized, so are books. But here, as you can see, even the book names are given in the same format, only the first letter is capitalized. The first letter after colon is capitalized, all others is small. And as you can see, that's the name of the city, Amsterdam, a very famous city. So you don't need to put the name of the country. The same here. Book chapters, that's another one. As you can see here, the only thing I need to point out here is that the initial comes first here. Here, with the authors, the initial comes after the last name. So last name, initial, last name, initial. But once you are giving the name of the book or the editor, the first name, initial comes first, then the last name. And remember, this is important. Say capital E, not a small one, capital E, D, point, and so on. So look, I think I will put that in the website just in case anyone like to go through it once again, and I will stop sharing and see if you have any questions. Any questions? Okay, there's one question here says, do we need page number if we have no quotations? If you have not quoted, no page numbers not needed. Yeah. No, it must be alphabetized. Sorry. The question, yes, why not use APS 6? As I said, at the moment, we have the feeling that everybody may not have access to APS 7, and that we talked about that. And what we are doing is trying to make APS 6 available to you through the journal website. Once we do that, then we will switch to APA 7. Which means that for this issue, we are still using APA 6, but maybe next year we will change. And by that time, I think APA 7 will be available available on our website. So thank you very much. Look, for this session we had to rush a bit, but that's okay. I think you got the message, and the slides will be available. Lakshman sir and Moti ma'am, any final remarks?
I think we've had a long day, so yeah. Maybe so we could wrap up. Yes, I think in one day, this much of input and sharing from a journal editorial group, I think it's enough for now, because more than this would be overwhelming actually. Yeah. Yeah. So the sessions were rightly sized, half an hour for presentation and questions. I think they might have enjoyed, but I think we're sending them our slides.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yes. So so they can have a look, because some of them were saying go slow. Yeah. Now they can read at their own pace.
We rushed a bit. Sometimes we rushed a bit, and there was because of the time constraints. Moti ma'am. Okay, that's all right. Look, on behalf of NELTA it's in? No. So on behalf of NELTA and the editorial board of NELTA, we thank you all for making time for this. It's almost a half day.
So 1 minute, 1 minute, please, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I'm very, very happy to all of that team. But one question is that, sir.
Yes, sir. Go on.
Just some Lashman sir, Abhay sir, and you, like Pandey sir, has given such a speech. But we are actually we are looking and reading well, but time is very short, sir. We haven't get good knowledge. So please, uh, I will try to give you something. If you another program will be held, please time should be maintained, because one question is there, and behalf of the Lashman sir has given some sorted thing, and some Pandey sir has also given so much knowledge, but we haven't get knowledge about that thing. So that's what, please, time should be maintained. Thank you very much.
Do you mean longer sessions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, got it. Yeah, I think Lakshman sir also pointed out. But remember, we are targeting the July 31 deadline, because that's where the deadline is for this year's issue. So we thought maybe this should be a compact package.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, there should be, one session a day, one topic a day, and a longer one, where we'll have more time to interact with you. I totally agree with you.
Thank you, sir.
Please
Thank
understand that this was aimed at meeting the deadline. Now, probably if you have some idea of how to do things, then probably you will be able to apply and develop an article by them in the article that you are developing, and still make it by July 31st. Very much, Kranti sir, and we will definitely take that on board.
Thank you.
I have prepared a feedback form to the participants, and I'll be